Then Francis Cress Wilson told y'all about with white people. And then people, we know about Stockholm Syndrome. Now, I don't like Stockholm Syndrome because it gives white people too much credit. Because when I read and read about the origins of the Stockholm Syndrome, I read that the captors, because Stockholm Syndrome is all about dependency on your captors and being loyal to your captors. And the people who are held hostage become loyal. Now, we are hostage in a hostage situation in this country. But one element of the Stockholm Syndrome we've never had. It said that the bank robbers were kind to their victims. It said the bank robbers, when they were holding the hostages and negotiating with the authorities, they would ask the hostages and try to provide for the needs of their hostages. Make sure they got food and accommodations, and make sure their facilities. And even if there was some sick or a hostage having health issues, they would make sure they would allow them to go. So what was weird about the Stockholm Syndrome is that even though somebody was holding you captive, even though someone was holding you captive, your captives, someone that put you in a bad situation, but in that situation, they were treating you kind. Go read up on the Stockholm situation, where the people with the Stockholm Syndromes literally all came out and said, listen, I know they was trying to rob the bank. I know they was some gangster thugs and displaying guns. I know they held us captive, kidnapping, and held us against their will. But aside from that, they were perfectly kind. They didn't brutalize us. They didn't threaten us. And in fact, while we were under captivity, we felt more threatened by the police than we felt threatened by our captors, because the police were being very aggressive. The police, even though the demands were very clear, the police were trying to assert their authority and threatening violence. So while we were in that situation, we were more afraid of our protectors than we were of our tormentors. And everybody was like, that's crazy. But it's fucking logical. It makes sense. When I lived in the hood, I was in a situation where I was very often more afraid of the police than I was with the drug dealers, the shoplifters, the gang members, the petty thieves, the addicts. I was more afraid of my protectors. I didn't have no goddamn Stockholm Syndrome. I just was looking at the logic of the situation. And I'm like, wait a minute. These hostages are making a lot of sense. I'm in an effed up situation, but instead of improving my chances of survival, instead of putting my needs and my safety at paramount, the police were more concerned about their authority and their ego, and them trying to impose their authority based on their egos. We are the law. They put us in even more danger. And the very people we should be fighting against, you have us embracing and depending on. And they were like, oh, you're crazy. The police, the authorities, the law is what's good, and the criminals who disobey the law are evil. So I've always been questioning about this Stockholm thing. And let's say the Stockholm thing was true. Them people went crazy. They did trauma bonding. They were put into captives and being sympathetic to the people who hold you captive. But it still doesn't apply, because this system has brutalized us from day one. So the only way Stockholm Syndrome would apply is if they kidnapped us, held us in captivity, and then treated us relatively well while under captivity. Now, mind you, I don't want to be treated well under captivity. I'd rather struggle in freedom and liberation than be comfortable in captivity. That's just how I am. So I'm not saying being comfortable in captivity is preferable, but if you're a black person, or if you're around black people and you want to call Stockholm Syndrome, you got to factor in for the fact that we've been brutalized from day one. We have been brutalized from day one in this country up till today. Endless, unyielding atrocities. So the Stockholm Syndrome is some white shit. White folks messing with other white folks. What no black people, they ain't a black syndrome. They say that all the time. But I'm just saying this to speak to this whole white savior shit, where you dependency on your tormentor. And I've said before, it's more, and grooming, you can't really apply grooming to Stockholm, because grooming happens over an extended period of time. You have to prepare them before you carry out your actions. Those robbers, they kicked in the door, waving the 4-4. That was an immediate thing. Bam. 1 minute you living your life, next morning somebody got a gun to your tempo. That's not grooming. Running up to rob somebody, just grass snatching somebody and taking them hostage, that doesn't qualify as grooming. Grooming happens over an extended period of time. It's a buildup. It ain't no boom, hey, break yourself, fool. That's not grooming. So, as I said, what we are, if you want to create and create a scenario, if you want an example of what we are going, an individual, interpersonal example of what we're going through as a collective, it's more, like I said, akin to battered spouse syndrome. How does battered spouse syndrome work? And battered spouse syndrome feeds into black people's desire to consume this white savior media. Oh yeah, grooming. Yes, I'm sorry. You're talking about The Blind Side. Yes, I agree. The Blind Side was a grooming situation. They had time. They've been grooming that man. He's 30, almost 40 years old. Decades of grooming and exploitation. Yes. But also in battered spouse syndrome, there's grooming. Now, the people who study domestic violence say that there's basically 3 stages that all domestic. First, you have the tension or danger phase, the anticipation. You know this person has the capacity to do violence, and they give little hints that they can harm you, that they can do shit to you. They don't do it. Now, I got it. I'm a cop. I got a gun on my hip. I got this badge on I ain't said nothing to you. Just the cop's present. It's tension. Anticipation. The non-expressed, the non-threat. And then you have the attack, the abusive act, right? But then what do they always talk about? We make jokes about it. There's songs about it. Makeup sex. They call it the flowers and chocolate phase. Baby, I'm sorry. I'd never do it again. I just lost myself. I've turned over a new leaf. Call it the flowers and chocolate. You go from makeup, and so it's the danger, the tension, the threat, the attack, the makeup. And what the whole point of the whole makeup phase, again, let's all quote it together, Dale Jones, they loosen up to get a tighter grip. They loosen up to get a tighter grip. And so, baby, forgive me. And they'll tend your wounds. They'll patch you up. They'll give you, they'll rub your feet. They'll run you a bath. They'll even take you to the doctor and sit there rocking back and forth in the doctor's office, hoping you okay, when they don't want to put you in the hospital. And that's the white savior. Our abusers come in to save us. So they abuse us as a collective, and then they pick some special Negro that they can profit from, but they'll pick some special Oprah Winfrey, Barack Hussein Obama. They'll pick some special Negro out of this whole vast pool of oppressed and abused, and they'll put them up and say, hey, we're going to let you be, you're special. And then that Negro really think, I'm special. I'm different. So that's the thing. And we go through and we love to imagine that we too will be adopted by a wealthy white man and live in a mansion. Some white person. And even you conscious black people, there's no way y'all can keep watching this endless catalog dating back to it's not just in books, but in literature. This white savior. And I know why white people do it. White people do it because their superiority pathology. Because there's two ways you can demonstrate superiority. I can demonstrate superiority by dominating you, abusing you, killing you, makes me superior. But also, if I swoop in to rescue you, that also makes me superior. So white folks get it coming and going. We torment, exploit, oppress, enslave these people, and we from time to time will reach in and pull one of the wretched out and save them, which also makes us superior. So their pathological drive to be superior over other people, and it also points to the fact that you're either a wretched thug or you're some wholesome Negro that can pull them on a sled and they have to teach you. You're a gentle giant. Green Mile. That's another trope. The magical Negro is the incestuous cousin of the white savior. The white savior and the magical Negro. And y'all go see this shit. And it strings from their inability to acknowledge the humanity and capabilities of black people. So if a black person is exceptional, it's because they got some special sauce and a hand up and an encouragement of a good white person. You know, and if white folks can't take credit for black greatness, they'll attribute it to aliens. Oh, the aliens built the pyramids and we built that big blindside Negro. They just can't acknowledge that we're capable of anything. Even when we rebel, even when we do revolution. They said that Martin Luther King, a communist spy from the Soviet Union has infiltrated the Negroes and is fomenting. They can't acknowledge our humanity. Even when they're doing white savior shit, that is really disrespectful. That's just as disrespectful as the stereotypes of drug, thug, criminal, gangbanger. All that shit is some shit. But I know, I may not go see the movies, but I see the stats. I see the kind of numbers these movies do. I see y'all taking your whole goddamn families. What is wrong with y'all, man? We need to stop this white savior shit. And then every time, what do we find when it's based on a true story? We get down the line and find out it was all a hoax anyway. But black people, we, especially in the West, but abroad as well, we have developed as much as a desire and need for the white savior trope as white folks have. Y'all be going to see them movies. They come out with a Jesus movie with a white savior, the ultimate white savior. They come out with these, and y'all think it's some heroic Negroes, red tails, bullshit. I went to see Glory and thought it was a Denzel Washington movie and found out it was a goddamn Tom Cruise movie. This white savior shit. And listen, I know if you walk away from the white savior trope, you'll be cut off from a large segment of movies and literature. So let me just say that, at least when you're seeing it, acknowledge what you're looking at. And don't tell me, listen, don't come to me. Oh, The Blind Side. It was all bullshit. Okay, yeah, and them Negroes be so proud of themselves. Them sisters from Hidden Figures. Oh, they be so proud of them when they should be ashamed of themselves. And I'm glad maybe things are turning around because they pulled that shit with Green Book and the hood was on that. Shout out to the black community. People was on that Green Book white savior. That's just one they didn't pull up. So let's keep that same energy for all these white savior movies and all these white savior fiction or nonfiction. Because y'all got Green Book. I'm so proud of the hood because people was like, man, fuck that Green Book shit. And then y'all didn't let the Green Book die, though. That's the thing. White folks want to brought up Green Book, and black people went and started researching what Green Book was. They started pulling out their aunties and uncles in them Green Books. Their grandparents and great-grandparents, they went to their storage units and pulled out them Green Books and started resurrecting the history and the reality of what the Green Book was and started coming up with new Green Books to support black enterprises and all that shit. So y'all, we didn't need white folks to tell us nothing about the Green Book. That's black business. And we brought it back home to a degree. So I think that's a good example. For all my hateration, I do think the way that Green Book white savior bullshit, propaganda, historical fiction, that movie did not make the money they into. They thought that was Oscar bait. And the black community, by and large, rejected that movie, rejected the myths of that movie. But the historical reality of the Green Book, black people, was like, yeah, this is something we need to make sure we don't let fade. We got to keep this shit to the fore. So I think we should handle all these white savior movies, fiction or nonfiction, the way we handled Green Book. That's all I'm saying. That's it. That's it.